1975 I was sent by the university to look at Rome and Greece under university money because of the course in classics, and waking up in Fiumicino, I came into Rome and it was too early for much to happen, but I noticed that Rome was just about waking up. So I went to the first church, which near the centre of Rome, Termini, happened to be the Church of St Mary Majors. It was an important year, 1975, a jubilee year, and a lot of prayer was happening in that church at the crack of dawn. I was impressed. Kneeling quietly, I happened to see a priest starting to celebrate at an altar not far from the entry. I thought, what a wonderful thing to be able to celebrate quietly on one's own at the crack of dawn at Rome at one of these altars. It turned out that that altar was the altar of Santa Maria delle Nevi, the Madonna of the Snows. Years later, I found myself on that same altar, looking up at the same huge fresco or picture of that miracle. By then a priest, and knowing a little more about what was in that picture. It was what happened on this day, way back on the Esquiline hill. It snowed on the 5th of August, and people understood that that was a sign that Our Lady wanted a temple built there, and it was to be dedicated to her. Pope Liberius saw to it, and it is called the Liberian Basilica. Pope Sixtus made it bigger, and essentially the church that we have there now goes back to that time. I asked somebody whether I could receive Holy Communion at the Mass there, or one of the other ones around, because there was all over the place, and it was indicated to me that the altar at which one received communion at that time was another altar. So I went there, and it was the altar where there was an icon way up. Again, years later, found myself concelebrating at that altar more than once, and it is the altar of what the English would call the Lady Chapel, but it is specifically that of the icon of the Salus Populi Romani. And there, Pope Francis traditionally goes before going on a pilgrimage to pray. It's the one also that he had brought out to ask for protection against the pandemic. There is much history in that church, St Mary Majors, the first one built in honour of Our Blessed Lady. It is linked also with the council that proclaimed her Theotokos, birth-giver of God, Dei Para, the one that gave the Son of God, who was already God, his human nature, defining therefore that he had two natures in one person. Pope Liberius lived, or rather reigned, from 352 to 366. Pope Sixtus III enlarged it, and Pope Liberius selected a venerated picture that hung in the pontifical oratory. It had been brought to Rome by St Helena, it seems, the mother of Constantine the Great. It would seem that holy women around St Luke were pleading with him to paint an image of the Blessed Virgin. And as he did so, he was listening to the Blessed Virgin talk about what happened. After the crucifixion, when Our Lady moved to the home of John the Apostle, she took with her a few personal belongings, among which was a table built by the Redeemer in the workshop of St. Joseph. When pious virgins of Jerusalem prevailed upon St. Luke to paint a portrait of the Mother of God, it was the top of this table that was used to memorialize her image. While applying his brush and paints, St. Luke listened carefully as the Mother of Jesus spoke of the life of her Son, facts which the evangelist later recorded in his Gospel. It seems that this remained in and around Jerusalem until it was discovered by St. Helena in the 4th century. Together with other sacred relics, the painting was transported to Constantinople, where her son, the Emperor Constantine the Great, erected a church for its enthronement. After the Council of Ephesus in 431, which the Mother of Jesus was acclaimed as Mother of God, Theotokos, Pope Sixtus III erected at Rome on the Esquiline this enlarged, therefore, basilica dedicated to the honour of the Holy Mother of God, which already was a church but was made larger. In this church also we have the manger, and I was impressed by all these pilgrimages happening already at the crack of dawn, people coming in there chanting and praying, and I was able to get confession at that time of the morning. But I noticed this that they were venerating, and I didn't know what it was. It was therefore the manger. And it is fitting that that should be in the place where Our Blessed Lady is honoured, the Mother of the Humanity. The phrase Salus Populi Romani goes back to the legal system and pagan rituals of the ancient Roman Republic. After the legalization of Christianity by the Emperor through the Edict of Milan in 313, the phrase was sanctioned as a Marian title of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, Constantine the Great was grateful to this new faith that he was finding, for it gave him the victory. He was fighting against the odds, but when he came to the Milvian Bridge, he and his army saw this cross in the sky, in hoc vinces, in this you will conquer, and he was to put it on the standard they were carrying before them. That can be seen in the frescoes on the wall of the baptistry of St. John Latran, which date from the period. And obviously this had a huge impact on Constantine, for that victory at the Milvian Bridge happened in 312, and already in 313 he's making now Christianity legal, and taking on therefore some of the accoutrements of what had been part of society before, but Christianizing them. We can see here the icon as it was due to the solemn coronation of it by imposed subsequent art. And Pius XII is honouring it publicly with that crown. Pope Francis in 2017 commissioned its restoration to the original form, and the experts in the Vatican Museum worked hard on it, and in 2018 restored it to its present and therefore pristine form, which could well have come from the pen, the paintbrush of St. Luke, as tradition has it. It has always been venerated, and things have happened in context of its veneration. The early fame of the icon can be gauged from the production of replicas and the role it played in the ritual on the Feast of the Virgin's Assumption, where the acheiropoieta, that means the icon painted without hands, the panel painting of Christ from the Lateran Basilica, was moved in a procession to Santa Maria Maggiore to meet with it. It is interesting that in the East, icons do things, whereas statues do things in the West. Poland is a bridge country between East and West, and there we have the wounds on the ancient icon, also purported to have been written by St. Luke, Częstochowa, Asnagora. We have there the wounds on the face of Our Lady, where it was mutilated by a sword. At Iviron Monastery on the Holy Mount, Mount Athos, we have also an icon which has wept blood when it was attacked. We have in Damascus the phenomenon of the oil coming out of icons there, especially in the context of the mystic Myrna, whom the Lord has raised up in our time to try and get the message through to the authorities that he wants Easter made one over the Christian world. And these phenomena have been very big on the years when Easter is in common between East and West. I know a crucifix in a monastery of Poor Clares, which was attacked by a violent Protestant years ago, and the crucifix lifted up its legs, and they're still lifted up to protect itself against the bullets. I know also of a sword near Rome which was used to attack a crucifix, and the sword itself is bent backwards on itself and preserved as such. So these icons and these crucifixes receive, on behalf of the one they represent, the honour given to them. We are not worshipping them as objects, but we are honouring the one they represent. And there was a whole debate about it, resolved in 787 by an ecumenical council recognised by East and West. It was against the iconoclastic heresy, the smashing of icons, because it was thought to be against the Ten Commandments. It was clarified that it was actually an honouring of the incarnate Word, who took flesh precisely, and wants us to honour him through what represents him, but not worship the object itself. I conclude, heaven is amongst us, and these sacred objects are to be venerated well, for in kissing an icon, heaven feels the kiss. We do well to bear that in mind, and not to treat lightly any blessed object which represents a higher authority and power.
Salve Regina, Mater Misericordiae, vita dulcedo, espes nostra salve, a te clamamus, exsurrex filii Eve, a te suspiramus, gementes et flentes. in ac lacrima